You're listening to the Live Out Loud podcast with River Wynn and Michelle Flamer.
Hi, River.
Hi, Michelle.
Howdy-doody-doo. How's it going?
Going. I just got back from Portland.
Yeah.
It was spring break week. I did spring break with my kids.
How was
Brought
the
them
drive? How was the drive today? No fires, no crazies.
nothing crazy. No, it was fine.
Good.
But I did spring break with my kids in Portland. Drove home
Yeah.
Thursday, brought them home to their dad.
And
Turned
then
around
drove
immediately
back.
Friday morning and drove right back to Portland to see a couple of comedy shows that I had tickets for. So I am tired, but my cup is full in a very good way.
Oh, I love that for you because so you're not out of spoons today.
No, it's like, I had a great week with the kids. We had a great week because we were with friends and family. We did fun things all week. We went to the beach. We went to the zoo. Like we went to I took Ivy to the Blazers game for the first
I
time.
love
Like so
that.
we
Did she
did
love it?
She loved it so much. We had like a
Blazers are great.
girls blazer night with some friends and it was so much fun. But just like being around like my people with my
Yeah.
kids,
Your
and it's
chosen
like my
family.
chosen family. And it's like it's not weird, it's not awkward. Like they jump right in and help me with the kids and of course staying with my sister for the week. And it was just really a wonderful week. I it was just really
Did
really
you like
reminded me of like how much we're just not meant to parent alone. We're just not
Yeah, it's
alone.
meant to be communal and
Yeah.
familial. Did
Yeah.
you unpack and pack again, or did you leave your bag because you knew you were going back?
I I just unloaded the car on
Yeah,
Friday morning, grabbed a few clean outfits and threw them in my bag, took out the dirty clothes, and then just left.
like more adult appropriate because you were going out and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just, clean clothes basically.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and
Okay.
so yeah, it was really, really wonderful. Really wonderful.
Well, today we're going to talk about vulnerability because funny enough, we were both on the same page with that. Oh, being vulnerable, scary.
You didn't see it, but
Are
when you
you
called
like
me earlier,
pretending to barf over there?
well, when you called me earlier and I was like, what are we going to talk about today? And you were like, let's talk about vulnerability. I was like, well,
But, but,
like barfed up a little
oh
bit.
my God. I wonder if our listeners are doing the same thing. Are you doing the same thing, listeners? Are you like, oh shit, here we go?
Big bad V word.
Hmm, that's funny.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
So what made you want to pick that topic?
Well, so really just around the sense of, dipping into our fun pool of relationships and dating and what comes up for us. And the
Not a fun
fact
time?
that in order to have maybe the relationship that I actually want means that I also have to be vulnerable. And it is scary as
Ew.
fuck.
Ew.
Ew. Ew, David.
Ew.
Vulnerability is now named David. Ew, David. I can hear it on Schitt's Creek.
Oh my gosh. It's
I
true
love that
though.
show
It's
so much.
true. One of the staples of having a healthy relationship is getting vulnerable and
Yeah.
also holding space for the other person to be vulnerable.
Gosh.
And that's a big ask because it means you have to know yourself well enough to get vulnerable and hold the space.
Well, it's different with our friends. It really
Oh
is.
yeah,
It's
totally.
it's like I can be vulnerable with my friends. I can really be vulnerable with my therapist. Um, it's when the mirror is shown for us. We're in the relationship, we're in the communication, we're in the conversation, and being vulnerable takes a different muscle. It takes a different bandwidth because in the moments of contact and communication, I have no problem holding space for another individual, right? Like you and I can
Mm.
hold some fucking space.
Yes,
And
we're gold
and it's
medalists
and
that
it's
does it.
different. Yeah, it's a different hat, right? It's a
Yeah.
different hat because no one's asking of us at that moment. But in order to be reciprocal in a relationship, it's not just the flow of text. It's not just, hey, let's talk on the phone and initiating and some of those things that all kind of encompass reciprocity, right? Well,
Mm.
guess what? They're showing their rawness. Well, at some point, we have to show ours. Otherwise, they're in a very one-sided relationship and we're not moving through things. We're just paused. That's kind of how I visually see it. Like it just a big
Yeah. And there's also that
emotionally.
component too with like your friendships, like our deep friendships, your inner circle of people that you're the most vulnerable with, and like family members too that you're with that with. Like we have longevity, right? Like we have longevity and we've established that, we're comfortable, we're safe with each other. We know that.
Yeah.
When you are dating, you're getting to know new people
Yeah.
most of the time,
Yeah.
And so it's like having to like expose yourself in
Yeah.
that way to someone that you don't have longevity with. You don't
Yeah.
know if they're going to be a safe person forever. You don't even know how long you're going to know this person. Like
That's right.
and so it's so much unknown. And for me, I think that's the hardest part about being
Well,
vulnerable is
it's taking emotional risks.
it's a
It
huge risk.
right.
It's a huge
It's
risk.
one thing to initiate a conversation on a dating app or at a coffee meetup or insert wherever. But it's like, oh, that's gonna be a doozy.
You're sharing yourself, like you're sharing your energy
Yeah.
and not knowing how it's going to be received or if it's going to be seen or if
Yeah.
it's going to be appreciated or reciprocated. Like yeah, that's a
You nailed it, like with trusting yourself. Like, because we're like, I know I'm always okay because I have me. Like,
Mhm.
I do trust myself. It's some of this comes up for me from my marriage. As good
Mm,
as we are now, um, I tried to be as vulnerable as I could. And like you said also that I guess when we get rejected over and people show vulnerability in different ways, right? Like
yeah.
sometimes vulnerability for me is just wanting to share something. Like,
Hmm.
hey, I experienced this and I just want to share because for me we're building bridges for
Hmm.
emotional connectivity, right? Connection.
Yeah.
And we're using hopefully our emotional maturity to, I guess, to articulate what we want and what we need. But sometimes those little moments, like when I listen to Jillian Turecki or even like
Mm-hmm.
Sabrina Zohar, or even like a really beautiful podcast from like, Rich Roll with his
Yeah.
wife, or, other people who are talking about it, it's like sharing in layers, like not, I think what I possibly could do is like you feel like you just want to get everything out.
Mm.
But I think sharing in layers or being discerning is something new for me, like to be, slow rolling it so that it feels like we're kind of building the foundation together. Like, ooh, you told you told a really sweet, vulnerable story. This is wow, I'm just gonna sit with that with you. And what it reminded me of is something that happened to me. And then like little bits here and there. It's I think just like expressing too much, I think can make us feel overly exposed. And for me, that feels kind of scary.
Yeah, I actually have an example of that
Yeah,
from
tell me.
my own
Share with us.
life. I recently kind of went out on a limb, and I don't think this person listens to our podcast, so I'm fine sharing this. But I
Okay.
kind of went out on a limb and connected with somebody that I have some interest in.
Yeah.
And like I'm going to share vulnerable
Wow,
things
your
now.
throat chakra is having issues.
So yeah, I reached out with this person, we started texting, and we made plans to hang out, and we started texting, and we texted what started as like an initial like, hey, how's your day kind of thing, turned into 3 days of like this deep conversation.
Yeah.
And
Beautiful.
it was
Beautiful.
really lovely. Like it was honestly, it was like that layering of sharing, like it started like with very basic, surface level stuff. And then as the conversation continued, it was like, we were sharing a lot of things because we have a lot in common from our
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
And so we were sharing a lot of things, and it was a really lovely conversation, but it never got to a point where it was like, this feels like overshare, or this feels like love bombing kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like too much, or trauma, I guess not love bombing, but like trauma dumping,
Totally.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where like it was kind of simmering back into like, basic conversation and whatnot, and there was still some of that depth there, but I was really triggered by the flow of this conversation, and I kind of like exited the conversation.
Wait, wait, wait. You actually became like an avoidant in that moment?
Yeah, I'm realizing because of that whole conversation, that I have gone, like the pendulum has swung for me. Like I used to be like coming out of marriage, like I
Yeah.
was very anxious attachment style, very
Mm.
much. And that's been my history, is like wanting to be chosen, chasing
Yep.
after the wrong people, just wanting to be loved, chosen, all of that. But we know that the wound that an anxious attachment style person and an avoidant attachment, they carry the same wound.
Yep.
And that is fear of abandonment,
Yeah.
right? It's just they
Totally.
go about it differently.
Yeah.
The anxious person chases, chases, chases because they don't want to lose it, and
Right.
then, or be abandoned. And then the person who's avoidant, they're avoiding it because they don't want to get hurt.
Hmm. True.
And so I realized because of this conversation with this person that I have like my pendulum has swung from anxious to very avoidant,
Mm.
because this conversation was lovely and wonderful, and there were no red flags about it, and it was great, and I'm still going to hang out with this person. But in that moment, I just became deeply avoidant and like shut down,
Wow. So
because
how did that make you feel seeing yourself from that perspective
it
or
was
through that
really
lens?
it's been fascinating, and I've been unpacking it now with my therapist for 2 weeks, and like
Hmm.
you and I unpacked it a little bit today
That's
too, because I
right.
had, just as I'm continuing to sit with it, it's like really realizing in my dating life period, I'm very avoidant. Like I've initiated giving my number to people in the last year and had some conversations with people, and I'm the one who just like shuts down. And I have this expectation that people are going to read my mind and know what I'm thinking, and I want them to read my mind and then like pull me out
Yeah.
of my shell. But like
Yeah.
that's so avoidant, because if I'm interested in someone and I expect them to read my mind
Without even like knowing them really.
and pull me, like if I'm interested in someone and I want to date them, I want to get to know them, and I just like follow them on Instagram or like their posts, in my mind I'm like, they should know that I'm interested in them. They should reach out and ask me out.
Right.
Well, on their
They
end, they're
should
probably like,
like,
"Oh, cool, this person like follow me, whatever, they like my post," but like they're not going to have a second thought about like they're interested in me,
you understand that most humans don't have telepathy.
You would think I would know that, but I'm also neurodivergent.
I know. I know your brain works a little differently. Well, and you are way more sensitive and you can hyper focus on things like like an
Yeah,
unfortunate superpower. And I was talking to one of our other friends today about this, is that you can hear nuances and shifts and you can feel shifts in energy. That's kind of like your telepathy in a sense, because you
it
have a
sucks,
very
honestly.
keen sense of
And
when someone's shifted.
yeah, and it can be a superpower, but it can also really suck
Yeah.
too. Because when you are reading the room
Yeah.
constantly, and you
Yeah.
can feel what people are feeling and you can kind of surmise what they might be going through or what's happening with them because energetically you can feel it and you're hyper focused on the reading the room. It's exhausting. It's
Yeah.
exhausting and it's also hard to just like connect with people at a basic level because you can feel what's underneath it and so it makes small talk really challenging.
Yeah.
And it's hard. So for me, navigating all of that is challenging, but then you add in the factor of like, okay, I'm in this space where I've done so much healing work. Like I am technically at a point where like I would love to have a relationship. I'd love to have a
Mm-hmm.
partner.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've done the work necessary to have that, but it feels like this last piece is the vulnerability for me of like
Mm-hmm.
recognizing how avoidant I am and that avoidance is not going to get me to my desired goal of having
Yeah,
a
well,
partner in a relationship.
let's also remind people though in this moment is that you're not going to be avoidant forever either. This is just
No, uh-uh.
we're not our attachment
No,
styles.
and I'm aware of it. And so
Yeah,
because I'm aware of it, that's just what I said. Like that piece is like now that I'm aware of it, I need to push through that
correct.
because being like sitting in that space of being avoidant is not going to get me to my desired outcome of having a partner and a relationship.
Total. Yeah, I mean, and the cool thing is, I believe when you build up a little bit of comfort with somebody, that'll go away.
I do
I
too.
mean,
I do too.
granted, we're not going to be vulnerable right off the bat, but there are some
Well, and
questions.
that's why I kind of like melted down and like
I
exited from the
know.
conversation because I did feel comfortable with this person.
That's right.
And we did have some vulnerability right off the bat.
That's
And
true.
that freaked me out because
Hmm.
in my experience in the past, when men are vulnerable, it's usually because they're trying to get something from you and they're not
Mm,
actually like being authentic and genuine,
yeah, that's the
has
whole
been my
patriarchy
experience.
bullshit.
And
Yeah.
so I was like, oh, here's this person who's like coming to this conversation with authenticity. And there's no red flags in the conversation, just even like at a getting to know each other as friends level.
Yeah.
And it just I haven't really interacted with that many guys who are self-aware and
Yeah.
bring that kind of like presence to conversation. So it just like it just made my system freak out.
That's crazy how it shows up like that though for you. It's
But
interesting.
it's a good learning lesson, right?
It
Because now I
is.
realize like I have to sit with that
Well,
discomfort
and
if I
again,
want
this
to
is
date.
all practice, practice,
Practice.
practice.
Yeah.
So here's a couple of questions that we can utilize and ask in this process for ourselves. I
Mm.
identified some of these. Um, One, am I showing up as my true self, or am I trying to fit a version of what I think they want?
Ooh,
Okay,
that's
read these.
so
Yeah,
good.
hold on. What am I afraid of revealing and why? I'll
Mm.
put these in the show notes.
Yeah.
How do I react when I start to feel emotionally exposed? Do I lean in or pull away?
Oh, it gets so uncomfortable.
I know. Am I giving this person the chance to see and understand me fully? Do I
Mm.
trust myself to handle the outcome, even if it's not what I hope for? Am I letting past wounds dictate how open I am now?
Damn.
I know. How do I feel after spending time with this person? Safe, energized, or drained? I
Mm-hmm.
think that's a really that's an easy one to check in on yourself while you're even in
Mm-hmm.
conversations. Am I clear about what I need in a relationship and am I willing to voice it? I mean, you and I have talked a lot about our own requirements, non-negotiables, what
Yeah.
we want and need, and we also are aware that we have to shift those over time
Mm-hmm.
because as we grow, some of those old beliefs of non-negotiables or requirements aren't necessarily true for us anymore. So, but
Yeah.
are you clear in what you need, and then does this connection align with my values and emotional needs?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
really, it's like we have to accept that not everyone will reciprocate, and that's
Mm-hmm.
really important. And that's what I meant by like, there's that fine dance with people. Like, you guys had for 3 days texting. Like that was a beautiful dance of sorts
Hmm.
and really reciprocal. And he still responds. Like you can reach out to him and he actually does respond. So
Yeah, and I know we're gonna keep getting to know each other as friends. Like we have mutual friends, and it's gonna be great. But
yeah,
it
beautiful
was
way to
just a really like
balance that.
eye-opening thing for me of, oh, I have to be willing to put myself out there.
We have to. Like
Yeah,
if we want, like I know you and I don't just want a girlfriend boyfriend. Like we don't just want that. We want someone that we're calling life partner,
yes,
love of our life,
yeah.
um, forever, our forever soft space to land. Like you don't get that by it being easy.
No, and you also don't get it by sitting at home and waiting for it to show up on your doorstep.
Oh, you mean like DoorDash?
Like I I
I
think
could
that's
just
where
order
I've
this
been
right
is
up.
like I think that's where I've been. I'm like, this is what I want. But also I want DoorDash to bring it to me. So I don't have to
Did
go
you
out
bring
there
me a six
and
foot
be
five
vulnerable.
brown haired outdoor therapist? Is that any like I'm just with green eyes or blue eyes? Well, eyes that don't
Oh
and brown
man.
eyes can be pretty too. So,
Oh man.
oh
Yeah.
my God. So what are you going? Okay, so you have this really sweet guy. You already have some plans on the books. You've also have a birthday coming up where you can invite him. What other little things for you that feels sort of safe that you can do in the coming days to to kind of keep bridging the connection?
Well, I mean, I think right now it's like, I'm getting to know people and like just practicing putting myself out there of like, hey, I'm interested in you, want to hang out.
Yeah.
And I recently like I had taken a pause from dating apps and I
Yep.
recently like restarted that because I was like, I'm just gonna put this all into practice of like if I'm intrigued by someone, being okay with initiating that because that's been a struggle for me is the concept of initiating and I shout out to one of my favorite dating coaches, Date Brazen podcast. I love her. She is super feminist and she teaches people how to like date from a place of like getting rid of those gender roles and
Yeah.
stereotypes of like, oh, the man has like the
That's what I
masculine, the
told you
man
though. Like,
has to initiate. And for me, it's been a thing of like I just wanted someone to initiate with me because I felt like in the past I have been the initiator, but I've realized that in the past it's been that I initiated in that I just opened myself up to people who were interested in me, not because I was interested in them. So it was like I opened the door, come on in, because I want to be
yeah.
chosen, you know?
Hmm.
And then I would chase them,
Which we don't do anymore.
but I was never pausing and asking, like, oh, is this someone I actually would have wanted to date? Is this someone I actually would have initiated with? Like, I was letting them choose me, and then my initiation was opening the door, saying, yes,
What
come
if
in.
you
You
just
can.
saw them as like gender neutral, like a soul? What if you just saw them as a
And
soul?
so that's what I'm doing. I'm like putting that into practice of like, hey, as a woman, if there's someone I'm interested in, I'm gonna be unapologetic and unafraid about being like, hey, I want to get to know you. Want to hang out?
I'm telling you, being sometimes forthright like I can be, because, and also in the lesbian world, like masks tend to be a little bit more of the initiator. I'm kind of used to that role.
Hmm.
Um, But man, when a woman like initiates with me, like, because I typically like to date a little more femme than me,
Hmm.
they can kind of be androgynous and toe the line a little bit, but they're definitely more femme than me. I love when they do initiate, but I don't need them to initiate. Like, all I need to know is that they like me also, and I'll just, I can initiate.
And I'm learning for myself as a manifestor that initiating doesn't mean I have to go out and make it happen. It
That's
can
right.
be as simple as like sending the message, hey, let's
Yep.
hang out sometime. And then letting them like match my energy and like meet me there. It can be so simple as like swiping right on someone, initiating the first message, like just putting that intention of like, I'm saying yes to
I kind of want to
closed
read your
door.
profile and then I kind of want to rewrite it.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like I could really write you a good one where it would push away the losers and really like call forth like good energy for you.
Men don't read. Men
They
don't
don't read at all.
know.
Oh,
I think I'm not going to say all men don't read bios, but I'm going to say a lot of men don't read bios because I have it in my bio, like the top of it, not religious, super feminist, super liberal. And I still have all these dudes with like Trump flags hanging off of their trucks trying to
oh,
trying to match with me and
painful.
like the fish pictures and it says Christian.
Okay, so
His
they
name's
they
Christian
literally,
Chad and he's sex positive, still trying to get in my
I don't get that. Oh my God.
different world, I think, from the like from the queer world.
Well, it's just because I have never experienced, like Chrissy tells me stories too. Like she's like, oh my God, girl, like the minute they think you like them, even as a friend, like they're already thinking with their junk. They're already thinking with
Absolutely.
their penis. And I'm
Absolutely.
like, God, that is such like I feel really bad not like for you girls, for you like for real. Like because if
Yeah.
I go into a bar, a dude's coming up and he's like wants to just chat and literally just chat with me because he knows he's not
Hmm.
getting anywhere
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah.
And he's and so I've always just had the dudes coming up and being like, "So what's your deal?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm just having a beer, hanging out. I'm here
Hmm.
traveling for work." I never once think this guy actually wants to like do me.
Yeah.
Like it's a different, it's so interesting when I hear these stories and I'm like, holy shit, what, it's really fucked out there for you guys.
It's very different. And of course, there's a ton of amazing guys out there too, and that's not going to be
Of
your story
course.
for everyone, right? But like, yeah, so really like for me right now, practicing vulnerability is letting myself be okay with initiating and
Yep.
seeing who matches my energy.
I love it. I love it. I
Yeah.
think, I think that's a good start. I mean,
And then not shutting down. Not
yeah,
shutting down and running away.
yes,
When I start to get like when I start to connect with someone and I start to get vulnerable
yeah.
with someone and they're getting vulnerable with me, not shutting down and like doing that avoidant thing and just like eating myself from the conversation.
So then what would you do?
I
How
have
could
to sit
you,
with it. I have to sit with that
okay.
discomfort, and it's like with the person I was texting, it was like literally I just never responded to their last text that had like multiple things in it that I could have responded to. I just didn't respond.
Hmm. Where are you?
And I didn't even do it like, hey, it's been so awesome chatting, but like I just, like I've got stuff going with my kids. I need to like, let's chat again soon. Like I didn't even do that. It was like just
You ghosted him.
disappeared.
You fucking ghosted him. Damn. Here's like an actual nice guy, I think. We
Well,
think
I
because
didn't
he
even think
knows
about
your
it that way, but
people.
I that's what happened. That's what happened. And
Wow.
then of course I did like, a couple days
You
later,
did send the text though. You
I
ended up
texted
sending.
since then a few times, but like yeah, so really like realizing where I'm at and like pushing through the discomfort of that.
Yeah.
Because even talking about it makes me feel discomfort.
Oh my God. Are we back to going? "Bleh, bleh." Well, I think it's a really good topic, and I will definitely have to keep unpacking it while you're going through, possibly dating somebody new.
No, I'm not dating somebody new.
Okay. Or whenever you decide to date somebody.
This is me like dipping my toes back into the waters of possibly dating in the future.
All right. Well, at least you're making some new friends and you're
Yeah,
you're keeping things light and open.
exactly. Trying to be vulnerable. It's
I know. It's crazy. All right. Well, thanks for jumping on today. This was a good one.
a good topic, even if it makes
And
me
I'll
squeak.
put those questions because I actually really love those
Those are
questions.
great questions.
Yeah,
I'm going to be asking myself those
I'll
questions.
text them to you right
Yeah.
now and then I'll add them to the show notes. But yeah, love you. Happy day to you.
Love you, Pod Squad.
Love you, Pod Squad. Share this with a friend if you know needs to be more vulnerable.
Yes.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode today, be sure to subscribe and share because what do we say, baby?
Sharing is caring.